What is the working class? Generally, classes describe people's social and economic positions. Most people see the modern class structure as divided into three parts. There is a lower, middle, and upper class. The upper class consists of the super wealthy, billionaires who own corporations and industry. Middle class can describe people who make over the median income in a given area. They are often managers or are otherwise employed in some sort of administrative role in which they act as the middlemen for the upper class. Lower class folks are often people who don't make very much money, have very low job security, and generally don't own any property. They work underneath the supervision of the middle class, who in turn works under the orders of the upper class. So then, where does the term working class fit into this three-tiered hierarchy? Unfortunately, it can be a little awkward as the term working class can mean a few different things to different people. Muddying these waters further are the concepts of objective class and subjective class. Objective class describes one's socioeconomic position as defined by data points such as income level or whether or not a person owns property. Subjective class describes how one feels about their socioeconomic position. The definition of the working class can be obscured by people's subjective class identities. The working class can bring up an image in people's minds of an overalls-wearing factory worker whose job it is to beat things on an assembly line with a hammer. Or they might imagine a plumber, a mechanic, or a carpenter. The term working class brings to mind a group of people who use their hands to build things, maintain things, or produce things. This is at odds with people's subjective understanding of the middle class. The middle class is generally administrative or managerial, and those professions are associated with desk work. This has the effect that anyone who works behind the desk can be confused as being a member of the middle class. People like teachers or office workers. This is despite teachers and office workers making about the same and oftentimes less than stereotypical working class jobs. Some may not identify with the term working class for many reasons. In addition to the image of the working class being that of an industrial producer, the working class has a stigma of being uneducated. So if someone gets themselves a college degree, they may no longer feel as though they are a part of the working class. On top of that, due to the word work being a verb and the word working describing someone who works, it may be difficult to identify with the term working class if a person is not actively working. This can include elderly people or disabled people, or similarly anyone who is unemployed for any reason. The working class identity revolves around labor. So if one is not actively laboring, it can be difficult to describe oneself as working. Truly, the working class is an imperfect term for describing the group of people that we want to describe. I typically prefer just saying the people or the masses, but perhaps that generalizes too much. It's interesting how language both emboldens us and restricts us. Either way, I think a good definition for the working class is the class of people who have to sell their labor to the capital-owning class. Or, in other words, the working class is the class of people who are subjugated underneath the rule of the capital-owning ruling class. A factory worker sells their labor to whoever owns the factory. A coal miner sells their labor to whoever owns the mine. And a teacher sells their labor to whoever owns the school, be it a state or private entity. In this way, I hope we can see that the working class includes both the lower and middle class. That being working class doesn't have that much to do with one's education level or income. What it's to do with is one's relationship to labor and the ownership of means of production. Although, obviously, if you have a lot of money, the chances of you owning means of production increases. Still, those who work as managers or administrators and earn over the median income in their area are still working class, so long as they don't own the means of their production and still work underneath the orders of a capitalist ruling class boss. This definition can be seen as incredibly reductive, and of course there are notable exceptions, but generally I think this is an easy to understand and functional definition. Due to the working class consisting of so many billions of people, it is difficult to determine what the working class wants, as a class. Naturally, the working class is in conflict with the capital-owning ruling class. The rich and super wealthy want their workers to work more for less money, whereas the working class generally wants to work less for more money. Beyond that, though, there isn't much you can say with any degree of absolute certainty. Is the working class white? No, black people are a part of the working class, and that's not even to mention the international working class consisting of billions of non-white people. Is the working class racist? Does the working class hate black people? Again, black people are part of the working class, and I'm going to go ahead and assume they don't hate themselves. So no, you can't really say the working class is racist or that the working class hates black people. Does the working class find trans people detestable? I must admit that there are a lot of people who do think that way, and they are working class. But another thing you need to consider is that trans people are also working class. I myself am a trans person, and I myself am also a member of the working class. I even worked the stereotypical working class jobs. I worked at a CPVC pipe factory for 3 years and at a lumber yard for 2. They even gave me this shirt that certifies me as a genuine New York lumber man. I think it goes without saying, I find trans people lovely. Inversely, though, does the working class think that Black Lives Matter or that trans rights are human rights? And the truth is that there are a lot of people who don't. So you can't say that the working class is against bigotry, in just the same way you can't say that the working class is for bigotry. I would say that the working class as it exists today does not possess any coherent ideology or political desires whatsoever, that it is too fractured and disunited as a group for any one thing about it to be true. You could even find working class people who don't want more money and more free time. Plenty of working class people work against their own class interests every single day. Even the natural conflict between the ruler and the ruled does not guarantee a particular political outcome. Yet, the working class is heavily politicized, and assumptions are made about the various demographics within it all of the time. So now, let's talk about everyone's favorite subject, America, and Donald Trump. The election of Donald Trump was said to be due to his support from the white working class. Donald Trump, as you well know, encourages and supports racism, sexism, homophobia, and bigotry in general. So to say that the white working class supports Donald Trump is to say that the white working class supports racism, sexism, homophobia, and bigotry in general. That the white working class is racist, sexist, homophobic, and bigoted. This, however, isn't necessarily true. What this is opinion, stemming from middle-class identifying journalists who saw those that they perceived to be working class supporting Trump. And so they wrote about it, and people read about it, and then that idea became part of the popular consciousness. Objectively, Trump lost the popular vote by almost 3 million. What's more, almost 47% of American voters didn't vote at all. That's over 108 million people. Only 25% of American voters voted for Trump, and of that 25%, only a third earned less than the median income, indicating that 2/3, the vast majority of that 25%, were more affluent and less likely to be considered working class, as far as the subjective working class identity is concerned. With such a profoundly minuscule minority, how can anyone claim that the white working class, let alone the working class as a whole, supports Donald Trump or the things Donald Trump represents? Data points like the 2016 election are important to bring up because often you'll see people who equate appealing to the working class with appealing to prejudice. That a way of building a united, cohesive political force out of the working class means abandoning so-called identity politics that are supposedly alienating to regular, ordinary, working-class people, despite the fact that the data doesn't necessarily back up that claim. I believe it's vitally important that we do not conflate the working class along the same racial lines as middle-class identifying liberal journalists. That anyone who does is very likely falling for liberal propaganda that depicts the working class as white, stupid, and bigoted. By doing so, they assert that working class movements should be centered around the interests and desires of white people. Interests and desires that they believe include racism, sexism, homophobia, transphobia, or any other vector of bigotry. It almost seems to me like they're simply projecting their own personal beliefs onto the greater whole of working class people. It's a view that ignores that Black people are working class. It's a view that ignores that women are working class. It's a view that ignores that trans people are working class. It's a view that ignores huge swaths of the working class. While it is true that the working class is commonly interested in economic issues such as the need for more money, what is also true is that Black workers might be interested in not being shot by the police. Women workers may not want to be harassed in the workplace, and trans workers may want jobs in the first place. All of these people are working class. All of their issues are working class issues. Identity and working class issues are not separate things. We're all working class. These are all working class issues. You cannot form out of the working class a united and cohesive political force with a determinable ideology by only focusing on the needs and wants of a single group, especially if your perception of that single group is born out of a subjective view you've gained from the consumption of liberal propaganda. You do not gain unity and solidarity by excluding particular goals. You gain unity and solidarity by including particular goals. You gain more support by supporting more people. When you abandon people and the things they need in order to survive, you lose people. The working class is everyone who does not own capital and employ people to work that capital. The interests and desires of the working class are the interests and desires of anyone and everyone who does not own their means of production. Currently, that doesn't mean a whole lot, but that's why class consciousness is a thing that you build. That's why education is so important, so that one day the entire working class can be united into a cohesive political force. Uniting the working class means uniting the entire working class. In doing so, we need to make sure we are expanding our consciousness, not limiting it. You can expand your consciousness by checking out these other leftist content creators. The Black Internationalist has a video on her thoughts on the protests in the US. Also, Rico Rants has a new video on a new subject nearly every day. Heck, sometimes more than one a day. As well as an interview series called The Rico Dialogues. So yeah, check out his channel. He has probably covered something you're interested in. Links are in the description. But before you go and see what those two channels are all about, be sure to do the YouTube things. Like, comment, subscribe, share, and get notified, as if my videos are so crucial as to demand immediate attention. We all have our delusions, I suppose, such as the idea of people supporting me on Patreon. A link to that is also found below. Of course, a special thank you to Patreon backer, Josh Thomas. Oh, and check out my wife's channel, Digital Diviner. Unlock the mysteries of the universe with the immortal science of tarot cards.